Today I'm here to talk to you from the product side of things, and not only from the product side of things, but also from the client side. So I work for seek.com.au, which is Australia's #1 employment website. So most of you in this room, I'm sure would be familiar with that. Just to put that in context, we get about 5 million unique visitors per month, which actually equates to about 50% of the Australian employment or workforce. So that's a pretty amazing stat. We send out 34 million emails a month to keep people updated with the jobs that actually match their search criteria. So as you can imagine, that puts a fairly large load on our systems. And since our app launches, we've had over 1.5 million downloads in the App Store, and that's happened in 12 months. So we're pretty proud of that. So we're a fairly established brand, and I guess that comes with pros and cons when it comes to developing apps and actually getting your brand into the App Store. So what was our requirement? It was to go from 0 to 2 iOS apps in 12 months, and that's pretty challenging, especially when you're working for a larger company that has a whole lot of other product dev streams underway. You've got resource constraints, you've got politics, there's a whole lot of stuff to deal with. So I guess why did we want apps in the first place? What we had seen is we've been keeping an eye on our mobile traffic for a while, and we saw a massive increase, so exponential increase in the amount of visits that were coming to the Seek site via mobile phones. So you can see that by the time we launched our mobile site in November 2010, it had increased 3 times. And by the time we got to November, so a year later, it was kind of nearly 7 times what it was originally. So a pretty standard story worldwide, but it was kind of like, ooh, I think we better do something here. Just a bit of a plug, we launched our new Mobi site this morning, so that's a bit exciting. Check that out if you want to see the web version of the app. So we thought, okay, it's time to actually get into the App Store. Why the App Store? Because 2 years ago, when we were looking at the proportion of our web traffic or our mobile traffic specifically, 90%, over 90% was coming from iOS devices. So Android was, it really wasn't entrenched yet. So that's why we focused on iOS as a first play. So basically, compromising on quality was not an option. When you're working on a Australian leading brand and you want to be competitive globally, putting a pretty average app into the App Store, not really going to go well with your users or the executive management team. And also, we were a little bit late. We're happy to admit that now, but we kind of waited a bit too long, so speed was essential. And Outware, our partners in actually developing our first iOS app, probably bore the brunt of that. So thank you to them if they're in the room at the moment. What we also wanted to make sure was that they weren't just apps. So for us, it wasn't just about getting something out quickly, meeting, some really, or getting some quick wins on the board. It was really about building products that were going to become the foundation of our mobile future. We knew the App Store was kind of where it was at in terms of user behaviour and what people were doing. And what we also knew was that people were changing their behaviour quite dramatically. So Google research is basically saying now that more than 90% of consumers go across devices or use multiple devices to achieve their online goals. And what we were seeing was that people were accessing Seek in the morning from their mobile phone on their morning commute. They were going back to their desktop or laptop at work. The number of times I get asked, can we have a flick to spreadsheet button on the desktop so that their boss doesn't figure out they're looking for a job at work? It's like, well, just don't look for a job at work in the first place. And then they go back to their mobile phone on their way home, or they switch over to their tablet when you're on your couch or in bed. So for us, what we were seeing is it wasn't a cannibalisation of devices, it was actually an extension of people's usage. So for us, it was a massive opportunity to actually improve engagement. So first principles for us, being a kind of, I guess, a big company and making sure that we invest in the right places, were to focus on the problems. So what were the user problems that we were really trying to solve here? And every product project that we, start off with, this is what we define. We probably spend weeks iterating on what the actual user problems are that we need to try and solve. So the first one was we wanted to increase the engagement of job seekers or users or candidates. There are many interchangeable terms. So we knew that desktop, we were getting decent engagement, but we knew on our Mobi site, our engagement was shocking. And we knew that what apps offered us was a chance to actually get people in there for longer and actually make it a more fun and engaging experience. So we really wanted to leverage that. We wanted to be the number one jobs app in the App Store. Again, number one kind of employment site in Australia. There was actually no other option. So that was where we wanted to be. It really needed to be seamless across channels. So because of that journey I just showed you that people go through during the day, there was no point kind of giving someone an experience on their phone or in their app, and then that experience not translating to what they'd transfer to at work when they actually picked up their desktop or laptop. And we wanted it to really provide the core features that users needed on the go. So it wasn't about trying to figure out all the peripheral features that might be fun to put onto or into an app. It was really about what are people going to need to do to find their right job on the go, and really focus on making those features the best as possible within that context. So the next step, once you've got the problems, is to define the goals. And really they tend to flow on quite naturally from one from the other. So you can probably already guess the goals. The first one being to increase our user engagement. So at Seek, and as per a lot of other corporates, data is really the backbone of what we do every single day. I don't think there's not a decision made when I'm working on a product with the team that doesn't refer back to some kind of data. So web analytics is our first love, I think. So the kind of metrics that we're looking at, searches per visit, making sure signed-in visits were increasing. So if you want that seamless experience across devices, people have to be signed in. There's really no other way. We wanted the conversion to application to increase, and of course we wanted frequency of use to increase. So the whole beauty of having a phone is that it's in your pocket all the time, and that people can pull it out at instances or in periods of downtime when they otherwise wouldn't. We also wanted to increase reach. So as much as we saw that kind of exponential growth with our mobile traffic, we knew that we were still missing out on a really large segment of the market that was accessing the App Store only and wouldn't even dream of accessing Seek via their mobile web browser. So for us, it was really increasing our reach. We set quite an ambitious goal for 1 million downloads in 12 months because REA, I think, had done 1 million in about 18 months to 2 years. So we thought that was fairly reasonable. And yeah, we're pretty happy that we've exceeded that. We wanted to be number one in lifestyle, which we were, and we wanted to be number one for jobs and careers in the App Store. So we set our goals and we actually achieved and exceeded all of them, which was pretty exciting. The next thing that we did, and that we generally do as part of our projects, is we come up with principles. And these principles are kind of what we call our experience principles or our design principles. They could also be called your decision-making principles. And what they do is they really give you focus and they allow you to prioritise. So when you're trying to figure out which features you should be bringing forward into an iteration or getting out to the market sooner, these principles really helped us. It also helps, for example, if I sit down with a developer or with the team and say, okay, it needs to be quick, it needs to be timely. It's like, well, what does that mean? What's the definition of timely? Is it, can you give me a number of seconds? If I say it needs to be delightful, it needs to be fun. Again, it's kind of like, well, everyone's got a different definition of fun and delight. So what we did is we actually had these principles and then supported them with benchmarks of the apps that as a team we kind of brainstormed to come up with to say this is what we want to aim for, and the apps that were available at that time that we wanted to, really imitate or aim for the experience that they were offering their users. So these served really well in helping us focus as a team and really give us something that we knew was our vision. So app development really exposed me to a whole lot of challenges that I'd never seen before from a product development perspective. But the great thing was that these challenges, they allowed us to push some boundaries, and probably push boundaries as a team, which we hadn't had the chance to do yet, and also push boundaries as a company. So when you are a market-leading brand, sometimes it's hard to actually move off the track that you're already on, and going into a completely new channel on a new device. It was actually pretty exciting, and we got away with some stuff that I don't think we would have otherwise. So the first challenge we had was brand. Aligning the desktop brand with our offline brand, and then somehow bringing those two together in the iOS kind of app world. So what I'm going to show you is the different iterations we went through from a brand perspective in terms of our design. And when we started off thinking, okay, well, let's just transfer the desktop brand into the app. Easy. Not so easy. Doesn't look so good. So that whole blue and white washed out, pale. It had no inspiration or draw whatsoever. We then tried another iteration saying, okay, well, we'll keep to the blue Seek logo on the white background, and we'll bring in that bit of graphite grey, the gunmetal that Apple's really well known for. Still didn't feel right. So we went to another iteration where we said, actually, our offline brand is pink, and that's completely different to what we offer on the desktop. Maybe we should kind of go down that path a bit. And we actually did. We started exploring that pink route a lot, and it popped. The pink against the grey, it really fit in to the operating system that Apple offers, and it gave us that I guess engagement or that fun kind of element that we were looking for. So the final design that we actually came up with amped up the pink even more. So I'm not sure whether people are happy with that in the room. Pete did actually ask me why the pink when we spoke during the podcast. And yeah, it is because it is a colour that evokes fun, personality, and I guess a relationship. So yeah, we ended up with, I think, a fantastic design which kind of balanced the pink with the blue and the grey as well. So the iPhone app we kind of solved. It wasn't too difficult. Then you move into the iPad, and that was a whole different kettle of fish. Once as a team we'd done the iPhone, we were like, yeah, we're great, we can do anything. It was so easy, and then we kind of started the iPad, and it was like, shit. There's so much space, and it's bigger, and too much pink looks scary, and too much grey looks too dark, and it was just really hard to find that balance. So we started to go through iterations again on the iPad, and this was really pushing it in Seek territory. So we started to go more down a transparent background. The kind of theme of these designs was Prometheus, based off the movie, so kind of really futuristic and a lot of layering and kind of cool effects. So we kind of went down that path. Then we thought, okay, well, we'll actually try and go back more to the iPhone app and see how that applies on the iPad. And as you can see, that one didn't really work either because it was too dark and it just didn't really feel inviting. And we decided that we needed something that actually looked like a family. There was no point going with, rookie mistake of remote control use. There was no point going with one of our Prometheus designs because it was too far different from what our actual product family offered. So where we ended up was with that suite of designs, which I think is becoming closer to being a brand family. As you can see, the desktop is still actually out on its own as a bit of an outlier, and our apps and our new Mobi site are actually really coming together from a brand perspective. So it's actually really challenging to get that right, and just because a brand works on a desktop, it doesn't actually mean that it translates well into the app channel, so that's just something to consider. The second challenge that we had was this whole native versus web debate. So, Jay, I don't know how many conversations we had internally going around in circles on this one. Do we go native? Do we go web? Do we do half web? Do we go fully web and then put a wrapper around it? So what we actually did was we kind of went through a few points upon which we made our decisions. We also had our principles, which were really good to guide us. So from a performance perspective, so if you want to get immediate transitions, if you want it to be timely, if you want to get that real pizzazz, from an app, there's actually no other option but to go native. So going web is never going to give you that. And because we needed a quality app, that meant we were automatically down the native end of the spectrum. However, then if you look at it from an ongoing maintenance perspective, we all know, submitting to the App Store every time you need to change something is actually quite painful. You never know whether you're going to get approved or whether you're going to get knocked back. So if you go more web view, then it actually gives you more flexibility because you can often update things in the web or on the web, and that will in your web views, and that will just flow through directly to the app. So that was kind of something to consider. And what we ended up doing was we actually went with web views for this page, which is our job ad details, because that often is something that does get updated. So we make small changes, whether it might be to the information that advertisers can put in, or it might also be that the templates change that advertisers use. So that's a page that becomes quite dynamic. So we actually decided to go web with that. And the next thing that we considered was actually, well, what's core versus non-core features? So with core, there's no doubt that you want them to be as kind of snappy as possible. However, the non-core features that we knew potentially weren't going to be the backbone of the app, we thought we could afford to probably go down the web path because it provided us with a chance to actually see if people wanted those features in the first place before fully investing in them. And we did that with the apply form. The third challenge that we had when actually building the app, sorry, I've got some mic issues here, was what can you actually put out onto mobile first? So what is it that's going to actually be contextual that you don't already have on your desktop experience that's really going to enhance the experience that users have in the app itself? So the first one that we actually came up with was one that really spoke to immediacy. So within the app, we knew that people were going to be kind of popping in and out, looking for jobs. So you were going to be going on in the morning before you get to work. Probably, when you go morning tea or lunch, you were going to be going on again if you were having one of those really bad days. And instead of having to go through your search and go, okay, well, which job is new since last time, what we really wanted to do was make sure that we could actually show you which jobs were new since you last ran that search. So we wanted people to pick up from where they left off. So we came up with this new jobs flag, which updated since the last time you ran the search. So I guess quite similar to the concept of a push notification, but if you can't do a push notification, then this was kind of our second or the next best thing. And we've since brought that back onto desktop as a feature. The next one that we looked at was search. So in the iPhone app, our search process was extremely linear. So you had to actually go to the search criteria, enter your stuff in, then you'd get your search results, then you'd have to go from your search results into a job ad details. Really linear, so it created what we called pogo sticking. So you basically had to go forward and then you had to kind of go all the way back, which is not the greatest user experience. So when the iPad, when we started thinking about the iPad, it was like, okay, well, this is an awesome chance to actually try and tackle this search problem a completely different way. And what we did is we actually created layers within the app. So our search tab became actually a layer that pulled out across all of the other screens or pages in the app. Screens, I know a certain developer from Itty Bitty Apps would kill me if he heard me calling them pages. And what that allowed is it allowed you to go in, enter your search criteria, and it would then provide you with your search results And not only would it give you your search results, but it will also give you your search results and the job ad details next to each other. And what it would also do is allow you to actually move to other areas of the app and then go back to your search results with those results maintained, so that if you went to another area, it wouldn't actually lose your place, which we thought was very important. And then if you wanted to actually apply for a job ad, you simply then get the application form to the right-hand side of the job ad details. So it really solved that pogo sticking problem that we had in the iPhone app. So the actual designing to the device and for the context that users were going to be in when using it was really, really important to actually solving this problem. The third thing that we really wanted to do was bring in a bit of personality. So what's an app if you don't actually bring in any personality? And these two are probably my personal favourites. I don't know whether anyone else has probably even noticed them, but I love them. So the first one was the Seek logo. And what we realised in the app is that you couldn't always access the navigation menu. So because of that pogo sticking, going down a path and then always having to go back out of it, you sometimes couldn't get to the navigation. So what we realised is, we've got the Seek logo on every screen. So why don't we actually just turn that into a touchable, space, and that can reveal the navigation menu, so that's always accessible to you with a bit of the light, just to make it a bit more fun. So that was something we did like literally right towards the end, which for me just gives it that polish and shows that you actually really care, that you really want users to enjoy the app, not only have it be functional. The second one was in the iPad, so again kind of focusing on the search nub, we kind of ended up calling it. And what we realised is that we were kind of changing the paradigm of Seek. So when you usually come to Seek, search is like front centre, you can't miss it, that's the first thing you do. And when we brought out the iPad, it was like, you know what? We actually want to personalise this experience more. That's the whole point of having this device, is that you have a personalised experience. So we wanted to put search to the side and encourage people to run more of their favourite searches, to return to the jobs that they'd saved. But we knew that people might miss that nub on the right-hand side. So what we did is when you open the app, that glows and it pulses, just to say, hi, I'm still here. You know, if you want to run a fresh search, then I'm here, just kind of tap me and I'll slide right out. So it was just two really little kind of small polish things, both which happened at the very, very end of the development process and kept us back till quite late, which I think have just really finished off and polished both apps in their quality. So I guess it's the joy of coming up with the features and the design and what it's going to look like, and then you have to think about, well, gee, how do we build it? And for a company like Seek and for a lot of corporate clients, there are a couple of considerations that become really important when deciding how and when to engage with external partners. So one thing, or the first one, is kind of our short-term versus long-term development needs, and the second one being, what should the team structure be within the broader product and IT teams that you've got within the organisation. So with the first one, we kind of looked at it as a spectrum, and with the iPhone app, being our first foray and being something that we needed out ASAP, we needed it done really, really quickly. We decided that we wanted to sit more on the outsourcing side of building the app. So we engaged with a partner, Outware, who could actually build the app for us within the time frame that we wanted, and it was fantastic. We got a brilliant app done within the time period that we needed, and it worked really, really well. And then when we started to look at the iPad, we were thinking, you know what? this is going to be a long-term kind of proposition. We're looking at having and supporting these iOS products, for years and years down the track, and continuing to rely on an external partner actually gets quite tricky. Every feature that you add on the desktop and you want to integrate within your apps, every software upgrade that comes out, every new device that comes out, you've got to make changes, and always having to refer to someone can actually be a little bit difficult and also quite expensive. So what we looked for with the iPad was a partner that could actually come and help us skill up in iOS so that we could actually start taking on more of that development and build up our own internal capability. Because over the longer term, when we do move to a more maintenance and enhancement approach, that's exactly where we want to sit. We know that we'll probably always be relying on experts that actually just do iOS every day, all day, but it is great as a client that does have products in that space and that's going to have products in that space for a very long time, to know that you have a team internally that's skilled up to actually maintain and enhance them. The second one was how do you set up your team? So when you're a big organisation, again, there's a lot of teams going on, everyone's doing different things, you've got different product streams, trying to come up with different ideas, and kind of where does mobile sit? So the way we looked at it is we said, okay, to start with, when you're building up your foundation in the mobile space, you really need to have a team that's dedicated, that's all they focus on all day, every day, because you're building up knowledge, you're building up that skill set. But then, when you know that you're going to move into a maintenance kind of program, that's when you can start integrating your mobile team within your broader kind of product and development teams, so that you're actually getting that cross-skilling and that learning happening across the organisation. So we're currently in the process of kind of figuring out when that move happens, and it is quite a tricky one. So just something to be aware of if you are working with clients who are going through that. So in terms of finding development partners, what was important to us? So what did we really look for when looking for people to partner with to build our iOS apps? Development skills, I guess, goes without saying. We really wanted people who were experts. So we wanted people who could show us they'd done it before, and not only done it before once, but done it before multiple times. We wanted to see examples, and not examples of the one app, but examples of different types of apps. So that gave us confidence that they were going to be able to handle any situation. Technical practices was quite important. So we're an agile development house. We really needed people to fit into our iteration schedule, into our testing practices, and also to be able to integrate with our APIs and our back end. We also wanted co-location. So being agile, it's pretty hard if you're partnering with people who actually aren't sitting with you. So people who could actually have developers sitting in our offices as compared to sitting in theirs. So that was key to the success of our progress. Also, people who could help with our knowledge transfer. So again, skill up our own internal teams. Also be available from a support and maintenance perspective. It's pretty scary having an app in the App Store, as a lot of other people have said already. The reviews you can get are pretty brutal, and if you can't actually respond to them in a quick manner, you're pretty much a dead man walking. And then also a partner that could appreciate the product focus. So someone that appreciates the broader context, the business strategy of what you're trying to achieve, and actually thinks about things and helps propel you towards that vision and that strategy. So just to summarise, a few things to remember. If you do want to work with suits who are dressed in jeans, made it very easy for me to decide what I was going to wear today. So often your clients' apps are part of a broader vision and a broader strategy. So kind of be aware of that and think about how you can actually add value to that whole strategy rather than just that one piece of work that I guess we're engaging you with. Build a partnership, really focus on that and integrate with the team. If you do that, we'll keep coming back to you again and again and again and again. So kind of like if you get government work, it tends to be a bit of a gravy trail. If you can actually get in with a corporate and form that relationship, it really does become a valuable client-partner relationship. Also, be brave. So one of the things that we loved was when the partners that we were working with suggested crazy stuff, stuff that we would have never thought of, stuff that we weren't aware of because we weren't, that deep into the operating system that we see it every day. So, tell us that's why we're referring to you. So, be brave and just, talk to us. And the last one, ask questions and then ask more questions and ask more questions. I think as we've all probably experienced, communication is the key to getting a great outcome and to getting a quality outcome. And the only way that you can actually achieve that is through asking lots of questions. So I'd rather someone, come and ask me or a developer or a tester or the UXer or the designer, is that what you actually meant, rather than just assuming it, kind of going all the way through development and test and then coming back and seeing it and going, oh no, that's actually not what we meant. So questions are kind of the key to getting a good outcome. And finally, most important, is celebrate outcomes. So just again, to go back to the metrics, as you can see, we love our numbers, and this was kind of a comparison of our engagement across all of our different channels, signed in and signed out, apps and sites. And what you can see is that the iPad app exceeded engagement levels, as did the iPhone app, of all of our other channels. So that was an amazing achievement, and one that has really shown us that these are kind of marketplaces and products that we really need to focus on going forward. What's really interesting actually is that we're seeing the retention of app users, it's about double the retention of our desktop users. So once you've got people into your app, they stay so much longer than what your normal users do. So that's a really exciting insight. And I guess we were rewarded for that with App Store naming us one of the best of in 2012. So that was just a great achievement for the team and the partners that we'd worked with. So the challenges were definitely worthwhile. And most importantly of all, we celebrated with some personalised iPad branded Seek beer called the Big I beer. So, I think one of the most fantastic things about working on a project and working within a team is that you actually do it together, and you can't get those outcomes without doing it together. So make sure you actually have fun when you get there at the end. So thank you. Hope that's given you some insights, and enjoy the rest of the day.